What is up everyone, and welcome back to another video. So in today's video I have a super important topic for you guys, which is how to win more fights in Fortnite. A lot of people spend time practicing the game, but they feel like once they get into a fight they just choke and can't seem to do things right. In today's video I'm going to be giving you guys the most important tips that you can learn in order to win more fights and become a super consistent player. Before we get into it, be sure to drop a like if the video helps you out, subscribe if you're new to the channel and you want to see more, and of course it's super appreciated if you could use code Teckoh in the item shop. It's 100% free for you and it seriously does help me out a ton. And lastly guys, before we hop into this video, on the topic of improving at fighting and improving at Fortnite in general, I want to take a minute to talk about a partner of the channel, which is the Fortnite Masterclass. The Fortnite Masterclass was created by pro coach Destiny's Jesus, and it has hundreds of advanced videos on all the most important topics. Insane strategies to earn money in tournaments, tips directly from some of the best pros in the game, advanced mechanics and aim routines, and so much more. There are literally hundreds of videos in this masterclass. The Solos Masterclass 5.0 actually came out over the weekend, and it features some of the best players in the world, such as Vino, Day, Owl, G-Money, and others, as well as tons of other awesome content to help you improve. If you don't believe me, here's a bunch of people on screen right now who made their first earnings this season from the masterclass. As well as that, the masterclass website has tons of options depending on what you're looking for. There's the Duos Masterclass, the Drop Masters X dropping calculator, where you can actually get a drop map to get a perfect drop every single game. There's a full box fighting masterclass, and the most popular option, which is the Solos Masterclass 5.0. And if you feel extra motivated, you can also grab the masterclass bundle, which is going to include every single masterclass that's ever been made and every future update for all of them. I'm telling you guys, this masterclass is absolutely worth it, so I definitely recommend you give it a shot. Overall, if you want to step up your game, the Fortnite masterclass is for you, so be sure to check it out at the link in the description or in the pinned comment to get started today. So getting into this video, and the first topic I want to cover is understanding your opponent. Understanding your opponent in fights is absolutely critical, and it's one of the biggest things that pros do, which you probably don't. A lot of players make the mistake of focusing too much on themselves. They focus so much on their own builds and edits that they neglect to consider what their opponent is doing and what they're going to do moving forward. A lot of us tend to just go on autopilot and we do what we think looks cool or might be cool, but by learning to read your opponent and applying the best techniques given the situation rather than just doing what looks or sounds cool, you're going to set yourself up so much better to win fights. Essentially what I'm saying here is you got to play off of your opponent. Starting off any fight, you want to read various things from your opponent. You want to look at their playstyle, what type of mechanics they seem to have, and consider what their goal is. Some people might be trying to box up in hopes that you'll disengage, whereas some people might be playing super aggressive and trying to kill you. Some might be trying to edit course on you, while others might even be struggling to box up. By focusing on your opponent and understanding them rather than focusing on yourself, you're going to be able to read situations way better, find better moves for the situation, and ultimately win way more fights. So from now on, when you're fighting, here's the biggest thing. You want to ask yourself, what's my opponent doing and how can I turn that in my favor? So if your opponent's playing super passive, then you can really get in on them and put them under pressure. If your opponent's playing super aggressive, you want to play aggressive back and really kind of shift the momentum in your favor. Overall, by doing this and reading the situations you're in appropriately, you're going to get way better at reading your opponents and you're going to win way more fights as a result. So definitely make sure that you're doing that. Getting into our next tip though, and this one is to use high-level practice. High-level practice is something I talk a lot about, but especially when it comes to becoming a crazy fighter in Fortnite, this is one of, if not the single most important thing you can do in your practice routine. By high-level practice, I mainly mean doing practice that fits one of two factors. It either needs to be specific or challenging. By specific, I mean things that target a particular area of your gameplay. Basically, these are going to be things like aim maps, mechanics maps, or VOD reviews. Your specific practice is essentially the stuff that you use to target one exact skill, and obviously that stuff is going to be very valuable. On the other hand, if your practice isn't dialing in on a particular skill, then it should be challenging. So these are going to be your things like 1v1s or regular games or any generalized practice that you do. That means that when you're doing 1v1s, you want to go against the best players you can find because they're going to challenge you. When you're playing regular matches, then do ranked or tournaments instead of pubs, because once again, that's going to be a lot more challenging. By keeping all of your practice in one of these categories, either specific or challenging, you're going to always be accomplishing something when you practice, and you're always going to be giving yourself a stimulus to adapt to. And that is the most important thing when it comes to improving at anything. So when you're going through your practice routine, make sure that everything you do is high level to some extent. Obviously, there's going to be some room for messing around and kind of just hanging out and doing some free builds or whatever. But for the most part, you want to make sure your practice is high level because that's what's actually going to push your gameplay to that next level. Getting into our next tip though, and this one is to improve your weaknesses. Improving your weaknesses in Fortnite is one of the most important things you can do to become a better fighter. We all have our weaknesses in this game, but a lot of people either fail to recognize what's holding them back, or they know what's holding them back, but they simply don't try to work on it. Now, obviously, if you know your weaknesses, then the answer here is going to be incredibly simple. Just spend more time working on those weaknesses rather than topping up on the stuff you're already good at. If you don't know your weaknesses though, I have a method for you that'll undoubtedly uncover them. I actually found this on a Marin TM video recently. He posted it the other day. He's another great tips and tricks creator, so shout out to him. And I wanted to cover this because it's very straightforward but very effective. So if you don't know your weaknesses, then here's what you're going going to want to do. Start out by grabbing a notepad, spreadsheet, or whatever else you can take notes on, and you're going to want to play at least 20 games of solo ranked. You can do more than 20 if you'd like, but 20 is a decent sample size. Basically, you want to have enough games to actually see patterns. Obviously, if you just play like 5 games or something like that, then you're really not going to be able to see consistent patterns over time. 20 is a good number. You can do more if you want, but 20 is a good starting point. And in these games, you're going to W key pretty much everyone you see and get into as many fights as possible. And then for every time you die in these games, you're going to take a very brief note on what caused you to die in your final fight. You just want to put simple things here and basically the immediate cause of your death. For example, you missed your shots, you messed up an edit, you made a bad rotation, etc. And after you finish all your games, whether you do 20 of them or more, compile these and figure out what the most common factors are that caused you to die. List these in order of how often they happen, and boom, there's your list of weaknesses in order of severity. So if you find yourself dying only 1 or 2 times because you missed a shot, but you die 10 times because you made the wrong edit, then you're going to want to spend a lot of time working on editing, peeking, and box fighting. On the other hand, if you rarely ever die because of mechanical stuff, but you find yourself getting beamed on bad rotations, then you're going to want to focus on that. Although this method is pretty time consuming because you do have to play 20 games of rank, it is one of the most effective ways to find and improve on your weaknesses. So if you struggle with knowing your weaknesses, then definitely try this out. And ultimately, when it comes down to it, guys, improving on your weaknesses is going to improve your gameplay more than anything else will, because fundamentally the weaknesses that you have are what's holding you back the most. It's a very common quote, and I'm sure you've heard it 1,000 times, but a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. So once you actually figure out where your weaknesses are, or if you already know them, then take some time in your practice routine to really target in on those, and you should see some huge improvements as a result. And finally, guys, getting into our last tip for this video, and another super important one, and this one is VOD reviewing. VOD reviewing is something I talk about all the time, but it's for very good reason. VOD reviewing is absolutely critical if you want to get good at this game. So kind of building on that last tip, another super important tip is to spend plenty of time VOD reviewing both your own gameplay and gameplay from pros. By reviewing your own gameplay and kind of watching yourself back in replay mode, you're going to be able to see what you do right and wrong and find even more areas to improve. It's kind of like we talked about with the weaknesses part, but it's just going to be more in depth on each game. And on the other hand, watching pros allows you to learn new techniques, new strategies, and things you wouldn't know otherwise. When it comes to fighting, there are tons of pros and content creators on YouTube who have tons of clips of really good fights where you can learn a lot. Some of these include Polarized, Booga, Bucky, Vino, and I'm sure there are plenty of others as well. Those are just some of the most popular ones. Overall, these two different types of VOD reviews are going to have different purposes. Watching your own gameplay is going to help you to kind of uncover what's going on with your own games, and you can figure out how to actually improve on what you already have. Whereas with the pro VOD reviews, what you're able to do there is essentially learn things that you don't already do, and then you can figure out how to carry that over to your gameplay, whether it's a new technique, whether it's a rotation strategy, or pretty much anything else. It's going to kind of uncover some new things and expand your horizons a little bit, which is super helpful. Another thing that might help you guys out as well is learning from pros in a comparable situation to you. So for example, if you're a keyboard and mouse player, then you might want to focus more on keyboard and mouse, whereas if you're controller, you want to focus on controller pros. This can even vary based on the game mode. So for example, if you're really focused on the solo victory cash cup, then spend some time watching pros that actually played that cash cup, whether it's the opens or the finals, and figure out what they actually do. If you're trying to improve with your duo, then you can watch a really good pro duo, and this goes on and on. Essentially, you can kind of target what you watch and what you VOD review to target exactly where you're trying to improve in your own gameplay, because obviously a lot of things that you learn from these VOD reviews are going to carry over significantly to your own gameplay. So that's just another note I wanted to add, because that's something a lot of people miss out on. Well, with all that said, guys, that's going to wrap it up for today's video on how to win more fights in Fortnite Chapter 4 Season 4. Overall, guys, the tips in this video are absolutely critical, and if you manage to put all of them into your gameplay in some capacity, you should see some giant improvements in your ability to win fights, and overall, you should become a much more consistent player. If you found this video helpful, then be sure to drop a like on it, subscribe to the channel if you're new and you want to see more content just like this in the future, and if you want to show some extra support to the channel, it's always appreciated if you could use code Teckoh in the item shop. It only takes like 5 seconds to type in, and it's 100% free for you, and it seriously does help me out a ton. As always, a giant thank you to everyone who uses it. You guys are amazing. And finally, guys, once again, be sure to check out the Fortnite Masterclass, which is going to be linked down in the description and in the pinned comment. The Solos Masterclass 5.0 update was absolutely huge, so I definitely recommend you get that one, or even the bundle if you want to get everything. Totally up to you guys, but I definitely recommend you at least give it a click and check it out. But with all that said, guys, thank you all for watching this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye for now.